Hello everybody, this is Marcus Photog. I'm doing a follow-up review. This is part 2 of the Sigma 85 1.4 art lens. And what I'm gonna do in this review is actually show everybody some real details of how this lens actually focuses. The last review I just went out and did a couple of test shots and kind of showed you guys how the lens actually perform under just the average condition. But now I really pushed the lens to the test, and we did and actually I pushed this to the test on a professional level. So this is me out doing a professional shoot with this model here. Her name is Sydney Stewart. She's a model, actor, and singer. And we went out to a little area out in Fort Worth and went out there and showed out. So let's look at a few images that I photographed with the Sigma 85 1.4 art lens. I get messages coming through, so hey, I'm that photographer. And someone asked me a question. It was like, hey, should I decide between the Tamron? I guess it's the Tamron 1. Tamron has an 85 1.8, and they wanted to compare the Tamron 1.8 to the Sigma 85 1.4. Now, even though they're both 85 millimeter lenses, the only problem with that is it's not a true comparison, because you looking at purchasing you're trying to decide on, actually what you're deciding on is 1.8 versus 1.4. And if I can get 1.4 with a high quality lens, I would purchase that instead of a 1.8, because there's nothing like being able to have a 1.4 stop in portrait situations like this. So let's look at this image right here. Now I photographed, I was using the Canon 80D in this shot. It was the Canon 80D. Oh, and I used also used my Shanny flash system I had set up with the radio trigger. So that's connected to a softbox with a grid. I mainly shoot either straight on hard with the flash. If I'm going to use any type of umbrella system, or any type of setup, I'm always going to have a grid, because I like to control the light. And I love to control the light. So it's okay to have light spreading out, but I like for my light to go directly to the subject I'm photographing. I don't want to light up anything else but that subject. And you notice that when you use grids, you'll find that you don't have to have that much power, because you actually have the light actually illuminating on your subject. So what was I looking for? Oh, this is what I want to see. I want you guys to look at this part right here. So you won't think that I've been joking around, but this is a ISO 100, pretty much what everybody would do. Of course, I know some cameras can get down to 50. That's nice. 85 millimeter 1.4, and I shot this at 1/1600 of a second. Now that lets you know automatically that he's using high-speed sync. So hey, I'm the guy when it comes to high-speed sync. My camera is always set. My camera and flashes are always set to high-speed sync. Even if I'm shooting, even if I'm at 250, if I decide to go to 300, I don't want to make any changes. So I'm always set to high-speed sync. When I'm shooting outside, it's always high-speed sync. So the reason why I like high-speed sync is it's the exposure. And if you're going to shoot at 1.4 and you try to put a flash on 1.4, it's going to be too bright, especially if you're trying to shoot at 250 of a second. So when you buy a camera, make sure you can at least get up to 4,000 of a second. Majority of times I'll probably get up to 8,000 of a second. I'm gonna show you an image that I actually shot at 8,000 of a second in a second here. Back to the review. Let's talk about the details of this lens. Now, I don't know how your video quality is, and I don't know what the true video quality is when it comes out on YouTube. But if you want to see any of these images, I'll be glad to send it to you, or I can show you where you can actually go online and view it on my site. But man, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna zoom in here, make this a little wider. Now, let's talk details. Now, I'm a fashion photographer, so clothing is very important to me to show up in detail. And I'm going to zoom in right here in this clothing. Now, I don't know about you, and I don't know what kind of video quality you have, but you see the strings here? Anytime you can see these lines and details and clothing, man, that's sharp. I mean, even here. And another thing is that, see this right here? In a previous video, I showed you some chromatic aberrations. And really, to me, that's just a lot of light that's coming back into the lens. But some people have their own idea what chromatic aberrations is. But you know that there's no chromatic aberrations in this at all. And what I'm talking about when it comes to chromatic aberrations, like right here, you ever notice when you take a picture, this will either look, right here, it'll look like it's purple or something like that, or it's blue or green. Right there, it's not there at all. Down to the fingers. I mean, anytime you photograph someone and you see the lines here in the fingers, and remember, I'm shooting right at 1.4. Right at 1.4. And check this out. I mean, I'm looking at two screens here. I edit on two screens, so I'm looking at two quality screens here. So, I mean, there's the lines right there, right under the eyelid. And check this out. This is not even edited, so I haven't touched anything. I'll double check and make sure I ain't changing the exposure and nothing like that. But still, I haven't done anything to details. Back to the end, no chromatic aberrations here. Now, you'll notice that you might see a little bit here. But since we here, let me show you a little trick. We're gonna learn something today. Oh, let me tell you. I guess I need to tell you what I actually went to. You go over here to lens corrections. There's two types. I got the profile. I mean, sometimes when I'm shooting with wide angle lenses, you might want to come over this area and kind of balance the lens out a little bit. But go over here to manual, and you get this little eyedropper right here, and look for this purple. That purple, get it right there in the center, kind of like right there, and just click it, and look, it's gone. You don't even see it right there anymore. See, it was just that simple. Just that simple. Hit done, and it's gone. I'm gonna show you before and after. I want you to look right here on how easy that was to make go away. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna click this here and hit undo the fringe. See that purple? It's just the light reflecting back, because you see her eyes right here. If you look at her eyes, it's telling you it's telling you exactly where this softbox is with the grid. It's letting you know that it's over here somewhere, and that's just that light bouncing right off that hat, coming right back into that lens. And lens don't know how to do color corrections like the true eyeball. But look at her eye as well, and I'm gonna go back and redo it. You notice that chromatic aberration is out of her eye too. That the fringing is gone, just like that. See how easy that was? You do that on all your shots. So only do that, if you're getting ready to print or send out something professionally. You'll take time out and deal with stuff like that. But you're just putting something on Facebook just to show people your work. I mean, most people are not going to be able to notice that at all, because they don't even know what that is. And they can't, and half the time they can't even really see it. They're not even paying attention to it. But hey, check this out. I mean, I was just going back to the details in this lens. Her eye, the quality is there all the way down to the lips. Now, you can tell me a lot of things, but even down to the hat over here, man, it's in focus. So, let's look at another image. I mean, I'm just pulling random images and, well, hey, let's use this one. Hopefully, I'm just pulling this right off the gun here, so I'm telling where it's coming from. That was okay, but with it being so far away, I want you to really see some close-up and details here. I'll try a little camera trick right here. Now, most photographers know what this little redness here, you know how to create it. So I create this little redness, which creates a little blurring color here. And what you do is you kind of put the lens right in between. See these plants right here? You put the leaves right in between these plants, and what's going to happen is that color is going to reflect. When that light source goes off, that color is going to reflect back into the lens, and it's going to create this little foggy look right here. So let's see what happens here. So even with that little foggy look here, we still have a nice image there. So, I mean, that's real nice in focus. Worth it. There's another one that's kind of close up here. Let's kind of zoom in. And another thing I like to do to want to know if it's really in focus. Let me go here to this one. No, go to this 3. Well, for video, that's too zoomed in. So you actually have to be sitting here at the screen and actually look at this one. So let me go back to here. And still, real nice image. You can see the hair. Of course, this is not even edited. And of course, I'm going to clean this up. And that's perfect in detail. Now, okay, everybody, let's look at another image here. And let me see. What did I do here? Oh, here's the one I was telling you about. This one is ISO 100, 85 millimeter, 1.4, and I'm shooting at 1/8,000 of a second with a flash. So let's let you know that this is high-speed sync. If you wanted to see how it bokes in the back, I mean, it's there. I mean, I'm okay with some boking, but honestly, in this situation, if I was actually doing something like for fashion, I would probably I would for sure bring a little bit more of this building into focus so you can have a little detail of where the area is. So when you're doing editorial work, sometimes that detail in the back, you want to keep it. So I'm trying to see when I photograph this, I'm going to zoom in here because a lot of you guys are thinking I'd be joking, but this is this is real detail. Anytime you can pull up a scar that easily and you can see it in detail like that, I mean, you have a nice shot. I mean, the chromatic aberrations, I mean, you would see a whole lot of chromatic aberrations right up in here. Well, I'm seeing the flashes over here. It should be popping off like right in here. But you notice that there's none at all. But since I'm here, let me show you a little trick. I always try to show people these little tricks here. It's a simple fix, and digital cameras pick up more light. They kind of brighten the whites up more than film. Film usually give you that correct white color. But sometimes, even if you have the right exposure, your whites can be too hot. So you're going to have to go here to your highlights. And you have to turn that down. But see that? See the difference? You want to turn that down. I'm showing you the difference here. Because sometimes you take pictures of it. If it's too hot, it's going to look like that. it's all about your exposure sometimes, but I mean, we're at a nice exposure here. We're shooting directly in sunlight, so the high speed sync. So see what I'm doing? I'm just turning down the highlights. And that's how you correct that. See, now from a distance, you see this in detail, the actual design. When I turn it back up, you notice that how hard it is to see the details in the fabric. So when you're shooting editorial, you're shooting for designers, that fabric, my friend, has to pop. See right there? They're trying to sell. It ain't about you. It ain't about the model. It's about them selling the product. And they want their customers to see in detail what this does. And if I did any other changes, sometimes I'll play around with this. And you see how that made a difference right there. Sometimes you play around with clarity too much, you get that. Some people play around with that and it looks okay, but depends on what you're doing. But I would give it a little bit of pop right there. Brings out a little extra detail. See that? That's nice. And remember, I'm shooting with the 85 1.4 art lens with Sigma using the Canon 80D. The focusing system on the Canon 80D, man, picks up things nice. Let me show you another little trick here. Show you a little trick. See that? Now, professionally, if I send something out, I wouldn't leave that. So, since we're talking on this level, you want to get right in there where it's got that little purple at right there. And boom. See there? It's gone. See, that's simple. And y'all probably thought it was going to take a million years to take that little corner off. The worst thing you want to do is try to clone this off. And it'll look a little funny on the edges. So look at that. Boom. I mean, this picture is almost ready to go. And most of you photographers know what I would have to do next to this photo. So I probably kind of crop it in a little bit more like this. And, we got to go in and kind of smooth some things out here. Because, I mean, when you're shooting, now when we photograph, man, these cameras are so detailed. You can see a lot. There's nothing wrong with, if you're looking at this straight on, there's nothing wrong with that. The only problem is that I added this clarity to it. When you add this clarity to it, it kind of makes their legs kind of show in colors. So in Photoshop, I'll just go in and we just smooth those colors out, and you have a great image. So bringing this to a wrap, I'm gonna show you one more. This is a low light situation, and did we pull it off? Let's see. Low light situation. It's right here. I'm gonna show you the unedited one, dude. Let's edit it. So I don't want you to be looking at me like I'm showing you a lot of edited stuff. So this is unedited. And look at here. This is very low light situation. I just used a little flash from a distance to kind of illuminate her from the side. And if you look right here, you can see that I'm using that flash here. Remember, that's an easy fix. It's just flashing back into the camera lens there. But that's just my my light source that I'm using. My modifier, sorry. Let me give it a right. And if you look, you see right there is that scar. We were talking about that all throughout this video. That scar is right there. And little spots here, just normal stuff. Little string here, you actually remove that. Now with me shooting this in this type of, actually let me look and see how I photographed this, because I had to do something different here. I know for sure I didn't shoot this at 1/8,000 of a second. So this is still at ISO 100, 85 millimeter nose. I didn't change that 1.4 at all, because I want to max this lens out and see what can it do, even in hot, windy situations. Because this was a very hot, windy day, and sometimes you can get some shaky photos with that wind. Believe it or not, you look at me like I'm crazy. That wind is blowing, you can get some shaky images. So this is 1.4, and I'm shooting at I'm trying to see what else. Make sure I'm not missing anything here. Okay. Yeah. So I'm shooting this ISO 100, 85 millimeter, 1.4, 1/2500 of a second, which is still fast. Fast enough for me to catch this hair. You don't see any blurring, blowing hair. And you want to talk about bulking. Look at those tables and stuff. They're all bulked out. Now, on a, if you're selling, like, if you're going to sell the actual clothing, in this situation, you're going to want to bulk because you don't want details showing up. Now, however, if I was doing this image and I was photographing, say, for Bacardi or something like that, or Jack Daniels, and it was a glass here instead of the shades, what you want to do to kind of bring it all out is you're gonna want to show a little detail in these tables back here. So never forget that. Never forget that. See, it's all about creativity. So. And once again, this is a nice image here. See the details there? I'm hoping that your video quality is showing up well here. This is what you want to see, and like I said, remember this is an easy fix. So, yeah, that's what you want to see, even down to the detail. I mean, if you look into even in the fabric here in the greens. I mean, you can actually tell what type of fabric this is, even down to the stitch. So, this is the under stitch right here. Yeah. So, nice image, great photographer. Yes. And I am a great photographer. And one thing about being great is people can tell you that you're not great, but you don't respond because you're great. So, the only person know how good you are is you, I promise you. And the response you get from your clients. And I'm gonna give you a good tip before we walk out here. I want you to learn how to walk above what others sink into. And that's what I do every day. I learn how to walk above what others sink into. People have fear, and their faith is so low. And you have to believe in what you do and know that your product is right. And once you believe in what you do and know that your product is right, there's nothing no one can tell you that can keep you off track. So always stay on track, stay woke. Always stay woke. And learn how to walk above what others sink into. Now I'm going to close this out. I showed you everything in detail here. This is Marcus Photog. I'm gonna do a third review. My next review is I'm actually gonna do one live on location. We'll see how that works out. Cause here I tell you, sometimes people like to walk up and talking to my mic and say a lot of crazy stuff. But anyway, I'm Marcus Photog. I just did a review on the Sigma 85 1.4 art lens. To be honest with you, it's a great buy. I don't get this kind of quality, be honest with you, with my my Canon 50 1.8. And now I'll get a little detail, but not this much detail. It'll have a little shakiness to it. And another thing, before I go, I'll let you know the Sigma the art lenses, they don't have image stabilization on there. And honestly, I don't always use image stabilization. I have a Tamron lens that has image stabilization on there, and I noticed that sometimes when I'm trying to focus on something, it's like it's waiting on the image stabilization to kick in or something. You hear it kind of rotate. And if you're trying to fire it off while the lens is trying to stabilize and you're taking a photo, you're gonna end up with some blurry shots. So if you have an image stabilized on your lens and you notice that you have some blurry shots, you're like, man, I knew for sure I was on point. It was because the lens was waiting on the the glass to stabilize inside of it. So I'm trying to use some small terms that are the scientific one, but it stabilizes itself, and just like the lens, it's like a floating object inside the lens, and it's just trying to stay stable. But while it's stabilizing, sometimes when you take a shot, you'll lose focus. So if you notice that, then that's why. But I don't really care about lenses being stabilized or not. Only even when I'm doing video, sometimes the stabilizing system can be a problem as well. But when you're shooting at these type of shutter speeds, you shouldn't be crying about image stabilization. You should be crying about your technique. So, but other than that, hey, I'm Marcus Photography. I'm going to close this review out. Anything else you want me to review on about this lens? If you need some images sent over to you so you can kind of see the quality for yourself, let me know. I'll be glad to. Otherwise, we're going to close this out. Thank you guys again. Please hit subscribe. I have more to come. Talk to you later.